This is the slide that you've been waiting for. This is a way to massively increase your earnings from freelancing. Now, in the accompanying book, in this chapter on outsourcing, you'll see a little example. Go and have a peek at it and see how much you can increase your earnings. You'll be really surprised. Now, initially, when you start out, you may not be able to outsource. You may not have the cash flow to do so. Now, obviously, you have to pay the person you're outsourcing to before perhaps you get paid. So, initially, you may not be able to do this, but if you build up a little bit of seed capital, you will. And what you do, basically, is hire people to take on the work you do. You know, you can write, say, 20 articles in a day, which means $10 an article. How much is that you can earn? $200. Not a massive amount. You know, it may not be enough for you, or you may want to earn more. But if you hired a team of writers and you had a team that could write 200 articles in a day, suddenly at $10 an article, potentially that's $2,000. You know, that's a massive amount, massive increase. Even if you're paying them $5 or $7 an article, you're still bringing home, without doing anything, $3 to $5 an article. If that's $200 articles a day, that's between $600 and $1,000 you're earning for doing nothing. So massively profitable, but you've got to find high quality people. That's the bottom line. If your writers are poor quality, then you're going to have to rework what they deliver, which of course is going to, you know, reduce the enjoyment of the free time. But you know, if you're paying them $2 an article, you're pocketing $8 and spending, you know, 5 minutes reworking each article, then you know, that might be what you want to do. But if you're looking for a proper business, you make sure they deliver quality, you don't have to do any reworking, you pay them a decent rate and pocket the difference, and you can make a massive amount of money from this. It allows you to take on much more work than you can actually physically do yourself. You know, you said you may be limited to writing 20 articles a day, but by doing this, you've got your team of writers, you could write 200, or if you had enough people, 1,000. You know, how much money could you make from that? You know, you could take on an awful lot of work. And obviously, this is going to significantly increase your earnings. Yes, I know you're giving away a portion of it to these other people, but you're pocketing much, much more than you could potentially get before, as you saw in that example. This is something that works very, very well with the offline consultancy that we just discussed. It's incredibly effective. Okay, you charge your local prices for the work. So I'm designing the bar in the town's website. I charge them $2,000. That's a local price. I outsource it to the Far East. I pay someone $100, which is a fair price there. And what happens to the $1,900? It sits in my pocket. It pays for hosting for a year for him, for the bar owner, or something like that. You know, so they're getting outstanding value. After the year, what happens? I charge them hosting. You know, I have either a monthly or a yearly fee from them. And of course, you enjoy the profit. And then you can go out and sell. And whilst you're selling, your people are working on your projects for you. And you can build up a very profitable business. Now, don't be sat there thinking, "Whoa, no, that's not on that's unethical." It's not unethical at all. Big companies do it all the time. It's sensible. You know, a big company will outsource their help desk or their HR or whatever to a cheaper country. They'll outsource some of the manufacturing to the cheaper country. Where are all the McDonald's toys made? In China. You know, it's cheap to have them made. It's cheaper to have the McDonald's toys made in China and shipped halfway across the world than it is to make them in the same country. So yeah, they don't do it over there because they like China. They do it because it's cheap. So it's not unethical in any way, shape or form. So if you're serious about making money, this is one of the ways of doing it. You can take your freelancing from something that you're sat at your desk working 10 hours a day on to a business, and you move away from being the freelancer. Of course, you can step in times of need and review the work. You move away from that and into the actual running a business, running a freelance consultancy, and the potential profit for you is huge. You know, you can really, really do well on this, so it's worth considering. But you do have to make sure that your outsourcers are good quality. So what you do is you'd hire them first for some other work, make sure the work's good, make sure it's valuable, make sure it's unique, make sure it's well researched, good grammar, etc., etc., and then put them into your team and start putting work through them. Outsourcing is a very, very effective way for you to make quite a significant amount of money pretty quickly, and you can reduce the amount of work you do and increase your earnings at the same time. So please consider this when you have the money as a way to move forwards, but you've got to make sure they deliver to you on time as well. But very, very worthwhile doing.